So when you're playing Roblox Tower Heroes, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make whether you're first starting out or you're a little bit ways into the game is buying the wrong hero first. You can see down in this corner right here, we have some beautiful coins that we can spend on some items inside of the game. If we come over here to the menu, we can see all these different heroes that we can buy. Now, some of these are quest related. We're not going to be talking about those today, but when you first get into the game, you can buy a whole bunch of heroes. But you see, what can happen inside of the game is sometimes you don't know what the towers do, especially if you are new to Tower Heroes. So I want to give you a list of what every tower does, as well as what order I think you should buy them in, because this definitely does matter inside of the game and could determine how fast you get good inside of the game or how slow you get good in the game. Okay, enough talking, let's get ranking. The first thing you should save up for actually is going to be this tower right here. This is the Scientist. Scientist is one of those heroes that can basically be thrown on any single deck and work amazing because she does so much damage and you can place 5 of them. She basically gets this huge ray gun that can shoot at the enemies and deal 14 damage per like 0.1 seconds or something. It's super crazy. Anyway, Scientist is a super easy hero to use, but she's also overpowered as well. I definitely recommend you get the Scientist as your first hero, but if you were to get a second, I'm gonna have to recommend that you get this one right here. This is the Spectre. Now, what the Spectre does is it doesn't actually do damage, it actually increases the damage of the towers around it, literally by double at max level. It also has a special ability to where it can boost the rate or how fast the enemies attack, basically for 20 seconds, which is super good. The only downside is you can only place 1 of them, and it does increase the cost of being able to place heroes past level 3. Spectre is one of those heroes that has been determined to be probably the most powerful inside of the game just because of what it can do. It can literally take an army of like 5 heroes and make it seem like 10. Third tower that you should get inside this game has to be the Lemonade Cat. Now again, this is a tower that does no damage, but instead it pays you mana per round. That's right, this cat's going to be making you some money on the side so that we can afford even more towers inside of the game. Now, mana is not coins. I do need to make that clear. Mana is the thing that you get inside of the rounds to be able to upgrade your heroes, but it's just super overpowered. Again, one of those that can be thrown on basically any deck and it's going to do phenomenal for you. Now, surprisingly, the fourth one of these heroes that I recommend that you should buy has to be the Balloon Pal. Now, what the Balloon Pal does is it increases the range of your towers. Basically, damage and range are your 2 biggest things. That's why you have Spectre for the damage increase and the Balloon Pal for the range increase. You can upgrade the range by 50% at max level. I think it's only by 6% at level 1. Now, moving on to number 4, where we actually have some more towers that do damage again. Yippee! We have the Maytake or Mataki, however you'd like to pronounce that. What's different about this tower from the rest of them, except for like 1 or 2 others, I think, actually, now that I say that, is this one uses effects as its damage. It basically puts this poison on any enemies that get within its range, and it does that many damage per second. I highly recommend because this one is such an easy tower to use. It's also super powerful as well. So I definitely recommend you get this as your 5th tower. Moving on to number 6, we have one of the cutest little heroes inside of this game. This is Hot Dog Frank. Now, as you can see right here, you could place 11 of these bad boys, and they actually do a pretty good amount of damage. The rate's pretty good, the damage is good, the area is pretty decent, and it actually does this thing called area damage, which is technically exclusive to this tower, to where it does 80 damage to anything within its range. That's pretty good, and between 11 of these guys, if you start thinking about it, if you multiply 80 times 11 right there, I don't know what that is, but then if you had a Spectre on top of that, that's like having another 11. This guy could be super, super powerful. Coming in at number 7, we have one of my personal favorite towers. This is the Cart Kid right here, and basically what the Cart Kid does, it is a summoner, so it's going to be summoning like Cart Kids that have a certain amount of health from your side of the base instead of the ones that the enemies come from, and it's going to run into all these enemies and deal damage to them. Now, even though it has an extremely low spawn rate, when it gets to max level, it has this thing called invincibility or invincible for 7 seconds. It does that, and basically if you played Super Mario before, it's like having a superstar in Mario Kart. Basically, it can run into any enemy for 7 seconds and it will not die. Hey my friend, if nobody has told you yet today, you are seen, you are known, and you are loved by both Jesus and by me. And if you've been enjoying this video so far, please make sure to give it a like, even consider subscribing to Super Sword Central. If you enjoy Tower Heroes content, we're posting about it all of the time. If you'd like to, you can go down and join our Roblox fan group. The link's gonna be down in the description below. We post about updates, new merch, and all that fun stuff right there. Speaking of which, we have some new merch which is just released about a month ago now. We have some fall merch that is available for you to be able to buy for only 7 Robux. We also have some real life merch that you can get at this card right here. I'd love for you to check it all out, but for now, let's go ahead and head back into the ranking for the Tower Heroes list. For your 8th tower, I highly recommend this dumpster child right here. You can have a maximum of 8 of these things, and basically, this is the fire version of that Maytake or Mataki that we were just talking about earlier. It does the same type thing to where it puts a fire effect on it instead of poison, and when it gets to max level, it actually has this thing called biohazard and radioactive. Now, the reason why this one is so much further down on the list is because you can do this thing called a dumpster stack, which you can have this level 3 dumpster child right here doing the burn effect. You can have the level 4 dumpster child doing the radioactive effect, and you can have the level 5 dumpster child doing the biohazard effect, and all those are doing damage at the same time. So while this tower might be a little more powerful, the only downside is you have to have more of them, which increases the amount of mana you need, but also it's a little bit tricky to know how to use it at first. Once you get it, like once you've done it once or twice, you usually know how to do it. Still a super powerful tower. Highly recommend the dumpster child as your 8th tower. Number 9, we have my personal favorite on this list today. This is Bite right here, another super cute tower. I actually have it as my shoulder pal right now. I love it so much, have since I've started playing this game. And basically what Bite does is it stuns enemies for approximately 5 seconds, especially when you get up to some of these higher levels right here. All the way up until level 4, it basically slows them down to a speed of 0.5, which is really slow. And then when it gets to max level, it can actually stun them for, it can freeze them in place for 5 seconds. It's super powerful. If we come down here, we have number 10. This is, oh, that's Volt actually. This is Voka right here, or the chef as we're calling it right now because of the skin I have on it. Now what Voka does is, you know, let me go ahead and equip the regular skin so we can kind of actually see it. So this is the regular Voka skin. This is what it's going to look like when you get it. At first, she does this little party popper thing that can deal 3 damage. At level 2, she has this little firecracker thing or something like that, sparkler, that lights enemies on fire for 5 or 4 seconds and does 5 damage. It's actually really good. But at level 3, this is where she kind of starts to take on her full form. This is where she shoots rockets at enemies because she's really a patriotic 4th of July kind of themed tower. She also has, I think, the largest range out of any hero inside of this game, coming in at a whopping range of 25, and that gets increased to like 40 or 35 or something like that when you have a balloon pal on it. And although she has an extremely slow rate, the range and the damage that this one can do is absolutely amazing. Coming in at number 11, we have the Discount Dog. This is one of my favorite towers in the game because it's a dog and I love dogs. This one actually decreases the amount of mana that you have to pay for your towers. I've actually kind of compared this one with the Lemonade Cat before to kind of see which one does better. I plan to release a video like that sometime soon here. Discount Dog's one of those heroes that you usually don't bring on a deck unless you have other people with you inside of a server, but when you're the one with the Discount Dog, everybody thanks you for it. Coming in at number 12, we have Soda Pop right down here. Now what Soda Pop does, this is kind of like just a standard hero. It throws these water balloons, or if you have the regular skin on it, we will equip that right now. It throws soda cans on them just like this to be able to deal damage to the enemies. Now this one has a great splash damage as well. It basically does damage to enemies surrounding it, or like if it's throwing a soda can on one enemy and there are 2 other enemies beside it, it's going to do damage to those as well. Hope that made sense. You're definitely not going to go wrong with bringing Soda Pop usually, because especially if you don't have this branch tower right here, which is one of the quest towers, which we're going to have in a future video. If you don't have that, I highly recommend taking a Soda Pop with you because it's kind of the replacement, because you can actually place 1 more of those than you can the branch, so it kind of makes up for it. For your 13th tower to be able to get inside of Roblox Tower Heroes, you should get Stella right down here. Now, in my opinion, Stella is actually one of the most powerful towers in the game. In fact, I would even go as far to say that she's within the top 3. So why is she so far down on the list then? Well, the reason why is because she takes a little bit of getting used to be able and use. In fact, it is, in my opinion, the hardest tower to be able to know how to work inside of the game. However, I do have this video right up here in the corner to be able to show you how to be able and use it. So if you do have this tower, great, you can watch that tutorial that I made and you should be set. The way it works is it creates these little artwork pieces that will do damage. The tower itself does not do damage, it creates things that does damage, if that makes sense. And basically what you do is you pay mana to be able to expand the lifespan of the drawings that it makes. That's what it makes. It's technically supposed to be a drawer or an artist right here, but yeah, she makes these drawings and they do damage. However, you do have to pay mana to be able and use them, and you're not supposed to keep all of the drawings. You're only supposed to have a certain number of them, or more of these or less of these. You know kind of how it works. Actually, you might not know how it works. That's why I told you to go watch the tutorial. Anyway, just because of the learning curve it takes to know Stella and kind of really know how to use it properly, that's the reason why she's so far down on this list. Okay, coming in at number 14, we have Quinn right down here. Now, if you guys remember the Voca that we were just talking about earlier, well, this is basically the same exact tower. And the reason why Quinn is placed below Voca that we were talking about earlier, because literally they're almost identical, is because this one does not actually do splash damage, unlike Voca, who does. So for that reason, I'm gonna put Quinn a little bit lower here on the list, but definitely a decent tower, would use it from time to time. Now we talk about number 15, and honestly, you could stop with Quinn right there and save some coins for some grinding. However, if you're like me and you want to be able and get all the towers in the game, you could go ahead and get my boy Keith right here. Now, until this tower gets a buff, it needs a major buff inside of this game, this continues to be the worst free to get tower. Although it does exceedingly well on regular enemies because of its return damage. Basically, it's going to hit the enemy going one way, it throws boomerangs. When it hits the enemy going one way and it comes back to Keith, it's going to do multiple damage and actually it can actually do damage to multiple enemies if they're in a line. So you'd think it'd be pretty good. However, this one does horrible on bosses. Okay, so now that we've gone over our list for towers inside of the game, you need to watch this playlist right here to be able to continue to learn more about Tower Heroes, especially if you're new. But if you're not, just click that playlist right there. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's all of our Tower Heroes content. So go ahead, click that video, and let's get going.